Hello, this is Angel Talk with Brenda Hardwick. This is the July 2025 edition. Okay. I had to think about the date. I've been on vacation for the last 3 days, so don't ask me my name. It is uh, July, which is typically the hottest month of the year in the States. Here in Portugal, it's probably one of the hottest months of the year. And I know that there's stuff going on everywhere, all over the world. Okay. It's not just the United States, it's not just here in Europe, it's everywhere. There is stuff happening. And our title for today is Finding the Meaning of Your Being. Now, in this episode, I have a guest speaker. This is Colleen Taylor, and she is with Perpetual Wisdom. That is her company. Colleen, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit first, just so you can say who you are and what you do.
Well, I am an end-of-life doula, and I am a master Reiki practitioner. And I've just been doing the doula work here recently in my life, the last couple of years. I got certification class I took last year. And so I'm starting out on this new journey. And I did bookkeeping and accounting as a prior career. So I definitely related to the topic of this conversation because a lot of the reason why I made this big change was finding the reason to my being. So,
Awesome. Thank you. When you look on the website, you will find the information so that you can get connected with Colleen if you are interested in what she does or you want to hear more from her. So, finding the meaning of your being. Well, first, I can tell you that my whole world got turned upside down 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, when we moved to Portugal, because I was doing my healing practice and, Reiki and my angel communication in Denver. And then I packed up with my kids and moved here to Portugal. So everything changed. And then all of you, my listeners, I just finished going through breast cancer again for the second time in my life after 35 years. Didn't think I was going to have to do that again. And that also kind of shifted what I think about the meaning of my being. And I will tell you that from my perspective and from where I'm seated right now, it's not any one thing. And it changes. It changes as you change. It changes as your world changes. What do you think, Colleen? Do you agree with that?
yeah, I mean, I think we have life-changing events that changes our trajectory. We don't know the ultimate plan that our soul made before coming incarnated. Most of us don't. We have maybe a good idea, but for me personally, it took until my 50s to start figuring that out.
Yeah.
But it also, the whole journey there is still part of your soul's plan. You incarnated to experience the family you were born into. You incarnated to experience the relationships you had, because all these things expands your soul and expands your awareness of who you are and what you're here to be. So even what people call the negative occurrences in their life, that is your soul's way of guiding you to a higher gift, to a higher purpose. So,
I agree. And I will also say that the connection you make with your guides and your angels helps in making the transition. Um, I've been able to hear angels and know they were there since I was 3. Um, and I know that most of the other healers that I know it's been a long time that they've known something was going on. When was it that you realized you had your posse?
It took a long time. I actually started out as a hairdresser right out of high school, and I knew I felt a lot. Like I knew I just felt other people's stuff. And being doing that job, I just was always like, can we just do your hair and not talk? I didn't want to feel all the feels. I didn't know about my energy. I didn't know how to work with it. I didn't know how to work with other people's energy. But I'd go home just drained, just feeling like crap, basically, because I took on everybody's emotions and just sucked it all in and
Yeah,
went home with that. But I always knew there was something innate in me about knowing that there was more there, right? I always knew there was more to our physical being, consciousness. I believed in the afterlife in some way. Even as a kid, I know I drove my mom crazy because I asked her all kinds of questions about religion and everything. And I was just like, why? But why? I don't get it. I was one of those kids. And she would just get so frustrated with me. She'd be like, I don't know, Colleen, you're just going to have to believe. I'm like, but some of this doesn't sit right with me, what they were trying to teach. So I really went into exploring Buddhism and understanding Eastern philosophy because I always felt in my heart, if you were a kind, good person and you respected people and were kind to them, that was the way a human should be. I just knew that from a very young age. And so I always got disappointed when people weren't like that, right? Um,
that is so awesome. Um, that it's a little different from me because I heard them talking and they would tell me to do things. And I spent most of my young life saying, yeah, whatever, you guys, because, I was just this person who just knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and how I wanted to do it. And why should I listen to you?
Well, and I didn't start learning about guides and angels and all that until about 8 years ago,
Oh,
honestly. And that's 2017 is when I had my real awakening. I had like my life fell apart. I was starting to learn shamanic work, shamanic practices, and meditation, and understanding how guides and other beings, helped you in your life. And then my mom died. I had a near death experience and I lost my job all in 6 months.
wow. That's
So
a lot.
that's what I call kind of my bring me to my knees moment in life where you kind of have, you don't have to, but I did. I just was like, what is this all about? Why is this happening to me? And all along up until then, I was very unhappy, very unsatisfied with my life. Multiple relationships that hadn't worked out, parents divorced. I had a great stepfather that came into my life, which was you know, my life for my dad. But just a lot of personal, really troubling experiences up until then. And I can remember laying on the floor just going, what the hell am I here for? Why am I even here anymore? I'm just a worker bee. Like, that was how I was feeling. And so I guess be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I can
um
identify with that feeling. I remember having an a situation almost the same. I don't think I laid on the floor. I think I laid on the bed, but I was staring at the ceiling, asking some of those same questions.
Yeah. And so my trajectory, my higher self, especially after that near death experience, that truly, I didn't know it at the time, but I've done a lot of investigation and research into that situation. And my soul was truly making a decision. They were giving me an exit ramp at that time. So, and I felt things. I won't go through the whole experience, but I felt things. I knew something was going on. I just didn't know what. But towards where before my heart reset, I was in the ambulance and I could feel a loving presence. I just was like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I didn't know what was going to happen. I could have died. I didn't know my heart had been beating over 200 beats a minute for 9 hours by that time. So they were going to shut my heart down. And I was like, I don't think so. So in that time, I was making a choice to stay or go, truly. Um, and so I was given an exit ramp. Apparently, obviously, I decided to stay. And I was trying to calm down the EMTs because I could feel how nervous they were. So I was just like, oh, she's stressed out, it's going to be okay. Um, and magically, in that ambulance ride, my heart just went boop, normal right after that.
Wow.
And so I did have some surgery. I needed to get something corrected, but that was a turning point. And then you and some other people in my life in that time frame between 2017 and 2019 were very integral in my awakening and me figuring out all the stuff. I dove into all kinds of things, trying to figure out, what does this mean? Why am I here? What should I do with this? All of that.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that I was a part of that. I thank you for allowing me uh, to be some help. Um, I had been given, um, talking about meaning of your being, I had been told that I was supposed to help people. Now, in the beginning, I didn't know what that meant. My job, running the workers' comp program at the state of Colorado, was still helping people. Um, I had always been helping people. I worked in daycare. I did a little while in a hospital in medical records where I was helping people. And while all of them filled me to a point, it didn't seem to be quite enough, you know? And um, and my personal life was just as chaotic as my work life. And, married 3 times, divorced twice, widowed once. My kids grown, and I am very blessed that they're not nuts because their mother probably could have passed for nuts a couple of times. Um, and I am still helping people, but now it's different. And when I met you, I was just getting started with listening, finally listening to my angels, to my posse, and listening to my guides and letting them guide me because for so long I had said, yeah, whatever. And I didn't listen. And it was one of those sessions where I was laying on the bed going, WTF, you know, am I
Mhm.
supposed to be here? I've been through that and I'm still here, and I've been through that and I'm still here. Will you help
Mhm.
me out? And they
Yeah.
started pushing and guiding. And so I started, after I said, okay, I'm going to use this, then they started opening doors for me so that I could learn what I had as far as the gifts and what I was supposed to do with them. And I'm still learning,
Mhm. Mhm.
because finding the meaning of your being is not a arrival at a place and going, oh, okay, this is it. This is the meaning for my being, because it's not. It is ever evolving. It is ever changing because everything around you changes, becomes different, becomes something else. A lot of it has to do with you and the choices you make. A lot of it has to do with where you are, the people around you, where you live. A lot of it has to do with the world itself and the energy levels, which are pretty darn chaotic right now.
Mhm.
um, when you decided or began to explore becoming a death doula, tell me how that happened. What made you look in that direction?
It was interesting because a lot of what I went through in those 7 years or so was just flat out healing, figuring out why I was the way I was, why it happened to me, what happened, um, understanding my beliefs and my perceptions of things, understanding why I hold myself back. It was a lot of deep diving into me and what how I got to where I was, and in that capacity just exploring lots of different modalities. So I did shamanic training, I did Reiki training, I've did tarot card reading, I've done a lot of different things, and always trying to figure out, so now what do I do with these tools, right? And I think in a lot of your angels and other guides classes, we had a couple other ladies in there that were talking about maybe being a death doula.
Mhm.
And I've always been one to be very, what I want to say, intense, I guess, when it comes to life and emotions. And I'm always just real about it. I'm very real about it. Like, let's be authentic. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's holding people back and what's happening to you, and why you don't love yourself, basically, is the nitty gritty to it. And so that was a lot of my process, is finding out why I don't love myself and what that's doing to my relationships. But in that process, it was about all the shadow work. And, you hear about shadow work, and it's really just about coming back to owning your own true authenticity and your own true energy and loving yourself. But in that, I had already cared for my mom for over 20 years as a caregiver. She passed in 2017, as I said, with various different kinds of cancer. And in 2019, I had to start taking care of my stepdad, who I call my pops. He had dementia, and it was getting worse, and it was to the point where he couldn't live alone anymore. So I went through a lot taking care of him for 4 years. I had no idea about the disease. I knew nothing about it other than you lost your memory. So it was a huge learning curve. I didn't have much help. I didn't have family around me. He didn't have any family left. So it was just him and I. But through all of that, I felt his roommates pass, and situations would happen when we were in the memory care center where he lived. Um, One gentleman passed while I was visiting my dad, and I felt him leave his body. And then I went over and kind of knocked on, because there was just a curtain dividing them. And I knocked and asked if I could, his daughter was there. So it was, this occurrence happened, co-creation happened on purpose, because it was there, it was a reflection. It was a daughter about my age with her dad alone. And I was like, this is too coincidental.
Yes.
Anyway, my compassion was like exploding. I was like, that poor girl over there, I gotta go see if she wants a hug. She's all alone, right? So I reached out and asked, and at first she wasn't sure because she had never met me before. Like, who's this woman? But I was just like, it's okay if you don't want a hug, but I'm here if you need one. And she got up, and we hugged, and we both started crying. And her father was laying there, passed away. It didn't bother me. Like, I've always been very comfortable with a human dying. It's a natural process to me. I've been very accepting of that. And I think that's another thing, that the end of life doula is kind of the human who's really more accepting of that natural process. But anyway, when I went to go sit back down, this is where some of the gifts are coming in. I can hear people who have passed over, and I just heard in his voice, thank you.
Uh,
And he was still kind of in the room. I could feel his energy. And he was just very appreciative that I consoled his daughter. And
wow.
I was, oh, well, it was a gift to me. And then I helped another friend with family members. And then my dad ended up in ICU with his lungs filling up with water, his heart filling up with water. And through a long 24-hour course of trying to figure out what needed to be done for him and what should be done for him, we ended up taking him off life support, and I made that decision. And I was there with him when his soul left the body. I felt it before the machines, went flat, before the nurse called it. I felt it. And being spiritual, I know where the spirit goes. But as a daughter, I was in grief. So I had this crazy juxtaposition of being like, oh my God, that was amazing. I just felt that soul leave the body. Like, I don't even know tangibly how to, our English language isn't good enough to put that in words.
Yes.
It was such a high vibration, Brenda. It was just amazing because the reason I made the calls, I had gone outside and I could feel him wanting to get out of the body. It was like a tether. He would try to get out, his energy would try to get out, and he would snap back, and he'd try to get out and he would snap back. And I was like, oh, the machines are keeping him alive. He wants to go. I could feel that. So, because I had gone outside to contemplate what to do after they gave me some information. So anyway, when we did take him off and that soul left, it was just ecstatic. That energy was just high vibration. But I stayed with my dad, and that's where I coach as a life doula, end of life doula. If you want to stay with your person after they pass, please do. Try to do that because their energy is still right there. And I could feel them in the room. And yet there's something about our human existence that needs to understand the transition, right? It needs to understand that the body is not alive anymore. That takes a little time. So to be with the body where it wasn't alive anymore gave me closure. It's like, okay, he's passed. I see this, I feel this, but the human mind, the consciousness needed a little time to absorb that. And I'm a big advocate of people staying with their loved one for a little while, whatever they're comfortable with, because it just helps that ending, that closure. It really does. And I would have never known that had I not gone through it. There was so many things I found out going through this process that have helped bring all of my experiences to being an end of life doula. But after that happened and hearing that word before and people telling me, you'd probably be good at that too, and a couple other things in my experiences that year, I was just like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. I think this is where I can serve this because I had, like you, I had a need to serve. That's innate in my nature, in my being, in my energy, in my makeup. I have a need to serve. That's where I thrive. And you have to be careful with that because you can go overboard to the point where you're serving somebody with no, give and take back, where you're sacrificing yourself by serving. So I've had to really be careful of boundaries with that. But in my innate nature, that's what I was here to do, is serve. And um, I kept thinking if I hadn't have been there with him, he would have been alone. He would have had like a state appointed guardian or something, and nobody would have been there except in a hospital with nurses, and they're beautiful beings that work in hospitals, but no family, no loved ones around. I just can't imagine that situation. So I was grateful that I could walk him out of this world, but I also was like, I don't want that to happen to anybody else. I'm a hospice volunteer as well. So I just sat with a woman that was the situation. She didn't have any family, and she had a state appointed guardian, and the hospice let me know that she was in transition. And I went and sat with her for a few hours, and another volunteer went and sat with her for a few hours. And it was a beautiful experience because it was like, at first I thought, oh, how sad. But then I thought, you know what? No, wait, because she has somebody there who's loving on her. And also, it was so simple. Like she didn't have a whole bunch of stuff to take care of. She didn't have a whole bunch of trauma or grief, people grieving around her. It was just her and I, or her and the other hospice people, the chaplain and volunteers. And she went out in love. And she left the next day after I saw her. And I was just grateful to be part of that. And so it's very satisfying that way.
That's so awesome. Well, that is wonderful to hear your experience. It's much akin to the feeling I get when I help someone get over or through whatever they're dealing with when I work with them. It's a little different, but I understand. And I find it very interesting the way the angels gave me the topics for the next 6 sessions, and I'm going to have 6 different people speaking. Um, that they knew what they were doing because this has been a wonderful experience. Listening to you. I have one final question to ask you.
Mm.
Um, in speaking with um, my audience, with our audience, those who are listening, what would you say? What would you say um, is one thing they could do to help them find their being, to help them pay attention to what's going on inside them, to know where to look, what to listen to?
I don't think I could narrow it down to one. That's a big question.
Well, give me what you got.
Right. First of all, find love and compassion for yourself. Do what you love and love what you do. It's about what brings you joy, what fills your heart, you know? How can you take that and make a lifestyle out of it? So even if you're working somewhere else as a job, how can you take the joy and the fun and the good things in life and do your passion in some way or form? You know, what fills your cup? Um, because at the end of the day, it's about what makes you happy, what brings you joy. It's about your relationships. It's about your experiences. It's about your memories. It's also about your loss and the things you experienced on the way. But it's not about the things you have. It's not about the security, because in the end, it's all we can take with us is our memories and our love and our joy. That's it. And that to me has given me the passion to live my life as fully as I can every day, because I want to experience so much that I don't want to hold myself back. So we don't know when our time is going to be up. We do know it will happen, it's guaranteed. And I think that can be a very peaceful, loving, graceful experience if we allow it to be. In between time, how can we live our life fully? Because when we do get to the end, we can be grateful for what we experienced in our life. And we can be grateful for the difficulties too, because the difficulties is what catapulted me to what I'm doing. So a lot of times those difficult experiences give you the gift in the end. And it doesn't feel like that when you're going through it. And it's like, what? Like you said, WTF, why is this happening? I don't want this. I don't like it. It's confusing, it's traumatic, it's stressful. But if you see yourself on the other side, sometimes it takes a while, even a few years, but generally there's a gift in there that you've created somehow. Your soul has given you a gift. Act on it, act with purpose, act with your passion, love yourself fully and love others fully as much as you can.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yes. Um, Tomorrow is not promised to anybody. It's just not. And
Mhm.
I always say if you can't do something today, be okay with that.
Mhm.
Be okay with not being able to do everything today, but do everything that you can.
Yeah, but you have to give yourself a lot of forgiveness as well.
Absolutely.
every day we're doing the best we can with what we have to work with. Every day is a learning experience.
Every day is a learning experience.
Right.
And
But
we're
what
never
does your
going to be
soul,
perfect.
yeah, right. What does your soul deeply value though? How can you prioritize your life aligned with a true purpose?
Yes.
So that takes a lot of work and a lot of uncovering, but if you stay in joy, if you know, as much as possible, just even the little things each and every day, and just try to be a little bit better the next day. Okay, that didn't work out so well. I'm going to try it again, you know? It just forgive yourself and love on yourself, because at the end of the day, when we do go, you know, the bedside regrets are what comes up.
Yeah,
The things you didn't do, the things you didn't act on, people you didn't love, the things you didn't reconcile, the relationships you didn't reconcile. That's what comes up. So I just really try to get people to work on today, and work on the relationships and work on who they are, and what they want out of life. It's hard though. There's nothing easy about it. We're all a work in process too.
absolutely. And like Colleen said, be gentle with yourself about the things that you don't get done today, that you don't see the end of. You do what you can. And I hope that her advice touched somebody that listens, and it will help you move forward and find what powers your soul, what brings you passion and joy, and helps you move forward in your life. Thank you, Colleen, for being with us today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Next month, our topic is keeping your cool when it's hot everywhere. And you look at the website, the Light of Nature website, to see who my guest healer is, because I don't have my list in front of me. So, yeah, it's somewhere here on the desk. But I will have a guest healer next month, and we will tackle that new topic. Thank you all. Namaste.
Namaste.